Morning, everybody. How you all doing? Let me get this together. Look, so Thomas Berry and I were in the background trying to work out the communication situation because I couldn't get any freaking audio going on this morning. So we trying to move things around and make it make sense. Hold on, let me make sure y'all see that. Make sure you see this jersey right here. Let me make sure you see this jersey right here so you all know what's going on for this weekend. That's right.
Oh my gosh. Shame on
UK, Duke University. Let's be clear about what's going on, baby. It's Final Four weekend, baby. Final Four
shame
in the
on
women's are
you,
Final Four in the women's is set. It's going to be the University of South Carolina versus UConn. So we're gonna see what happens with that. Dawn Staley has once again taken her ladies to the promised land, and we'll see if they can continue and finish off that journey and that trip. It is baseball season. Full effect. I was looking the other day because moving down here to Atlanta, I was like, yo, I miss going to baseball games, and I'm like, the Braves are here. What am I doing? What am I talking about? So they have yet to play anybody I really want to see, but I wanted to see if they played my Pirates. I'm pretty sure we have a home series here, so I'm gonna look for that. I've only seen the Pirates play once, I believe, and it was like a spring training game or some crap like that. It really didn't count. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really looking forward to that. And then the other side of it is and was they're playing the Orioles like the 4th of July weekend or something like that. So I'm going to fool around with that as well. I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna try it, and that's what we're gonna do. So that's what's going on in the sports world. I'm looking forward to it going down and happening. Thank you all for allowing me to step off last week. It was not a break. I was actually working. So the Women in Business Expo and Symposium was held here in Atlanta last weekend, Saturday, and I went out to cover that. The beautiful thing about that, and again, I thank you all for holding it down whilst I was gone, is and was able to make a lot of great connects in the city and outside of the city. There were a lot of people here from St. Louis. Shouts out to Misery. There were a lot of people here from where the other people came from? Indiana. There was a lot of people here from Indianapolis, bro. So, I know that's not too far from where you grew up at and stuff. A lot of people here from that made some connects with them as well. Uh, didn't do a lot of interviews, that wasn't while I was there. The folks with the cameras and all that stuff, they did all that. I'm still getting used to this visual aspect of the show. So there was a couple of things that I recognized I needed to order. So I will order those things. So in the very near future, we can do interviews and make those things happen. But it was a good time. It also led to a second event on Sunday. So needless to say, after last weekend, my ass was tired for real because the Saturday joint started. I had to be there at 10:30 in the morning, and y'all know I don't like to get up early. So, and it was like an hour drive. Everything pretty much is an hour from my house. I moved in the suburbs, and I'm 45 minutes to an hour easily from any and everything. It is what it is. It was worth the drive. It was worth the time. I actually went to Waffle House. I hadn't been to Waffle House. No, I hadn't. I hadn't been to Waffle House since I've been here. That was the first time I went to Waffle House since I've been here and stuff. So that was cool. Like a kid going to a candy store. Like I went to Waffle House, huh? But I went to Waffle House and had that whole experience, and that was mad cool. Um, but yeah, it was good. It was really really good. Like I said, made some connects, and hopefully we will see them pay off in the very near future. There's a organization. I believe they too are in St. Louis. Rashi, I want to get you their information so that we can do some things with them. Hopefully in the future. I forget the name of it, but I have them on Instagram. Instagram is the thing now. Now I picked it up from my man CeeLo. Shouts out to Carlos Scott. He had one of his clients, Chef Gerard, do launch his new show on TV One. What was that? Wednesday night or Thursday night? I can't remember, but I tuned in. That was the most important part. I was there supporting my brother, and that was a good look as well. But he taught me that little trick of the trades, like, yo, why rock with business cards nowadays? Everybody, for the most part now, is connecting through Instagram. So you connect with people through Instagram, they follow you, you follow them, and then you keep it moving from that. It's like, okay, that's cool. I will get the digital business card, however, though, because I think that is important, and we'll go on from there. But yeah, it was mad cool. It was mad cool. Uh, we'll see where these partnerships lead to. I'm very curious about that. We created like our own group chat too, so where one person knows about something, they share it with everybody else, and see if you can
That's
show
dope.
up. Yeah, man. I've been getting other. Yo, a lot of people. Speaking of that, thank you very much. You remind me. A lot of people dug the name of the show. A lot of people dug the name of the show. They, because in the beginning it was super long and people were like, but now people are like, yo, I get it. That's fine. That's fine. I love the way you did that. I love the way you all thought that out, so on and so forth. Shouted everybody out. Again, put folks in the know that Rashi was out in Missouri, put folks in the know that you were in Minnesota, but originally from Indiana, and just continuously trying to build those connections and expand the network, right? Your
Right.
your net worth is all about your network, right? I'm sorry,
Right.
your net worth is the, directly reflective of your networking ability. So definitely we wanted to do that. Oh my goodness, Rodney's up. I didn't think Rodney was going to be up this morning. And um, yeah, I see you, brother. More. So his son came in, so I thought he was going to be there doing the whole papa thing and whatnot. So I really didn't think he was going to be in here, but that's what's up. But yeah, man, it was, like I said, it was really good. It was informative. The venue was nice. They oversold it, which is a good problem to have. Very
Mm-hmm.
good problem to have. Hopefully they'll have a larger space next year and or reorient the space that they had this year, because they could have pulled it off if they just reoriented the space that they had this year in
Mm.
another way. So
Oh,
been out there trying to get in these streets, trying to build and foster strong, lasting relationships. And no, Rashi, I am not leaning with my penis. I'm leaning with my genius. So that's how we're gonna do that in 2025. I know, right? Ronnie's like, what the hell? Look. So Rashi will hit a brother on that. Are you out here? I know what you're trying to do out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. I'm being very, very, very mindful of what I'm doing, and I'm thinking with the big head, not the little head, because the little head can get you in a whole lot of daggone trouble. Speaking of which, let's bridge this gap. Brother Barry mentioned this morning Anthony Edwards, right? And I said he's a straight G. So Anthony Edwards, if you do or don't know, I'm gonna tell you what's going on with the brother. The brother has a child with a older lady because he's young. He's in his early mid-20s, right?
mid
And she's
mid
in
20.
her early mid. She's in her 30s. She's older. She's older, and she's not the first baby mother of a famous person. Let's just put that. So she tried to file for paternity suit in California. However, I believe the child was either conceived or they lived in Georgia. So he filed countersuit in Georgia. Georgia case took precedence. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I mentioned this on the show. It came through. He got the number, and like a G, he paid it all with a one check. Here you go. Child support for the next 18 years in accordance with the court order. Take it all. Tell you why I love the play that young man made. He knows he's going to get a Supermax contract at some point. He knows at some point, if he had left that on the table, she was going to come back and ask for an increase in the child support. 9 times out of 10, his counsel worked it out to where if he paid it, he's done. He never has to go through that again. I
Mm.
hope that's what his counsel did. Because if
Mm.
they didn't, then this is a very foolish move.
Mm.
If they did, this was a brilliant daggone move.
Mm.
So he obviously did not want a relationship with her. He told her he didn't want children. However, it happened that both of their responsibility, and he lived up to his financial responsibility off the muscle. Now, hopefully, at some point later on in time, he will actually build a relationship with his child. Hopefully,
Mm,
But if not, at least legally, he is ensured that that child has a huge leg up. And
mm,
if not him being there present in the emotional sense, he at least has been there present in the economical sense.
mhm.
I would also like, personally, for him to be there in the emotional sense because we all know that children do better when both parents are involved. But if she crazy as hell, I understand. I understand. And hopefully at some point the child will grow and extend a hand to its father and then try to build a relationship. It has happened. Rodney, you are an example of such. Others are the same. When you met your father later on in life, don't look like that. You met your father later on in life. It wasn't like your daddy was around every day.
Well,
What you what?
it is true that I met my father late on in life. It was the other part that I was questioning whether that was fully accurate, because unfortunately,
Okay.
it is there is a difference in growing up with a father who's a daddy and meeting
Right.
a father when you are an adult, because then there's still a father. And some people may say it's splitting hairs when we're talking about the difference between a father and a dad, and that could be so, but there is a difference between a father and a dad.
Mm.
Oh, there's a
So,
huge difference. I remind my children. Go ahead. Go ahead, Thomas.
my thing is, and I
Okay.
these discussions are tough discussions, because we're in a funny space as a community. I don't like the idea of people bringing conceiving children as a way to make a check, and I think that that's problematic. But
That was
also,
my point.
I'm also not comfortable with the idea of a young man who have his fourth child by three different women, and him constantly falling into this trap because that's wealth he could have spent on the children that he does want. Right? I just feel like, it's a lose lose, man. It's a loss for the child. It's a loss for our community. And, I think that we need to really re-examine some of these things when it comes to, having children. And, people have their own principles and their own ethos and their own differences. But I would hope that if a man tells a woman that he doesn't want to have a child, that she would adhere to what he's saying. I know it takes two to tango, but it also takes two to raise a good child too. And I just always point out the hypocrisy
So
anytime we get to politics about abortion. She got paid $100,000 to have an abortion. That's kind of escaped the conversation, and she didn't do it.
I wonder what she did with that dough. I wonder what she did with that dough. But hold that thought for a second, because you said it takes two to tango, and I absolutely agree with you. Um, who has the final call though? Who has the final say? Because her body, her choice.
I
Her
mean, you can
body,
look
her
at it.
choice.
I mean,
So
you
if
can look
he's
at it.
made it clear, hold on, let me finish. I'll let you get in. If he's made it clear as day that this is not where he wants to be, to your point, he does not want another kid with another baby mother. He
Mhm.
wants to stay where he is. He's like, you know what? I've made these mistakes before. I'm good. You say you good. We gonna do what we do. If something comes out of this, though, we are both in the understanding of we don't want to continue on down this road. Now, to your point, she gets paid $100K. Yo, handle the situation. Got this boy to his attention. And she goes, all right, 2-3 months later, why you still fat in the front? What happened? Boy, I went to Aruba with that money. You know what I'm saying? I got me a new burger bag with that money. What you mean? Okay, I got you. Now she comes to term, has the child. Child did not ask to be here. The loser in this situation is that child. Depending on how these two folks behave as that child gets older. That this is the loser in the situation. Now, what is he supposed to do though? Because it is her body, her choice. So what is he supposed to do? If he laid it out, and at some point I'm saying if, because I wasn't in the room, so I can't say they did. But if they laid this out together, and at some point she agreed, and then later on she pivoted, reneged, whatever the hell you want to call it, what options does this young man really have? What options does any man really have? You know, some of us know people that have been in it. And they stuck like Chuck. You know what I'm saying? So why is he any different?
It's a long 18 years. I would say this is why, in some aspects, why a lot of these men have sided with the Trump administration. And I want to be serious when I say it, because we kind of forget that a portion of this conversation is always about abortion rights. She's 44 years old and he's 25. Right. Let's also paint that picture too. And she also has she has a child by another millionaire. So when we talk about responsibility and accountability, it seems like when it's older men, they're supposed to be responsible for younger women. But when it's older women, there's still supposed to be a responsibility by the younger man. And I don't know. I just don't like the idea of the lack of shame. A child is supposed to be a beautiful thing, not a controversial thing. And I would hope with any situation that all parties are in agreement of what's going to happen in that phase. And if they're not in agreement, I just don't like the idea that we're all involved in the conversation. I think that that's part of the thing. It's like, you gotta, if somebody's doing something that they don't want to do, they're going to do a shitty job at it. And so you have to be careful in what you set for other people, because, hey, he could have said, you know what? I'm going to be there all 18 years and I'm going to make your life miserable. And I'm going to make your life miserable.
Yep.
Then what?
And I'll make the child's life miserable.
Then what?
Right.
So are we putting too much of the burden on the woman though? And this is a touchy situation for me, because when we say what can the man do after the fact, the reality is there's things that the man could have done before the fact that I would have to ask, did he do that? So for example, did he wear a rubber? How about that? And I know there's issues with it and it's not 100%, but did he wear a rubber? And if he was serious about not having a child, if he was that adamant about it, they got the doohickey thing, the snip, snip, snip. Now, I am not saying I'm virtuous in this area.
The doohickey thing.
Not at all. Not at all. But I could hear the women saying, wait a minute, why are y'all talking about it's all what could he have done? There is something he could have done. He could have wore a rubber and he could have also got snipped, but he didn't.
But I don't want to make it seem like we're giving him an out, because I don't think we're giving him an out. I think sometimes, when we have these conversations, and shout out to Latanya, she said it's natural to conceive and more like bond from the womb.
Yeah, I just posted it.
And to her point, women can easily adhere to the man saying, I don't want the child. Is this the part when you put emotion and feeling aside? I agree that all is best to be in agreement. So for me, this boils down to viewing the mindset. I would just say this. We live in a time where people do cruel things to other people. It's not just, I'm not blaming the woman because Anthony has a lady that he's with. So he stepped out on his lady to sleep with this woman, an older woman on top of that. I just feel like, when you look at the idea that he has other children involved, I think it's how you push the camera. You got to change the camera view a little different.
Yeah, I did. I got it.
All right. And so
I'm gonna fix it.
So when you go into these things, I just think that we're setting ourselves up as a collective. I don't know, man. I really don't like getting into these conversations because to me, I feel like it's a forcing. You force your morals and your principles on other people, and everybody don't share the same morals and principles. And so I don't like the whole telling somebody else what to do with their penis, their vagina, their child, whatever. I just know that it's an agreement. And if you know, he paid $1 million, so I ain't gonna call him a deadbeat dad because he financially paid for the child. He gave her $100,000 for abortion. She didn't do that, and then she got another $1 million. So I'm not gonna call him a deadbeat dad. I'm just gonna say that he's a father who did not want to be a father, and so he put his money where his pride at the moment is. And I just feel like we have to learn from that man and have better conversations about producing children. There's no wrong person in this situation.
Yeah, and where am I? No, not wrong or right. I don't know if Rashi saw that I posted her comments earlier, but I want to get her comments in here too, just so just in case she didn't see it. Rashi says she prepared herself for what must happen. She also said birth of the next phase of Black American reality. Um, and the state final parent she added in just now. Well, yes, I mean, I wouldn't say the state is the final parent because
Oh yes. Oh yes.
she got her dough, so and she will raise the child. So I don't think the state has much more to do with that. Now, hopefully, the baby will not become a property of the state at some point for losing out or feeling like they lost out on interaction with both parents. So hopefully that's not the case, but time will only tell. I agree. Well, that's not. I agree with Thomas in saying that you this pushing myself upon someone else, in my view, is not the answer to the situation at all. But it is one that I will offer my opinion on because I think the brother's a G. I think he's a genius. He took all that in one swipe, like, there you go. There you go. We ain't gonna argue. You ain't putting me on no tabloid. You ain't calling me out on social media. To your point, brother Barry, you will never say I was a deadbeat dad because I stepped up right here, right now. One swath of the pen. There you go. All of it. Take it.
What 50
It's
Cent did though.
yours. Now,
What
what
50
you
Cent
do
did
with
that.
that, it's up to you.
50 Cent did that, and he still was labeled a deadbeat.
Yeah.
So I think
And what you do with it is up to you. Don't call me.
I think the deadbeat conversation in our community is the dumbest conversation we got going. Because the reality of it is that look, you got to know the temperament of the person that you're laying down with. This sister and this brother clearly did not have an understanding outside of horniness. He saw that nice BBL surgery implanted butt she had, and she saw you just signed a contract for $350 million. That's what she saw. And that's what that is. And this is what transactional relationships are like. And when I talk about adding our morality and our principle, I'm saying we're trying to do it in a place where morality and principle had no place to be in the first place because this was a transaction. I mean, it used to be you leave $40 on the dresser and keep it moving. But now, because we live in a society where shame is void, now we add a third person, a third party, a child to the equation. And then when the child is added to the equation, that's when everybody else starts adding in their opinion because now it starts becoming about the morale of the child, right? And then you got to think this mother also has a child by another prominent rapper, Little Baby, who also is a millionaire. So this sister knows what she's doing. And those young brothers need to know what type of woman this is. And this Anthony Edwards won't be the last baby daddy. It's another baby coming. She's 44. She got space to have two more. And she will by the next young rapper, young basketball player, young football
Oh,
player.
you think
Man, listen, um look at the look at Drea and the young brother inside of Houston. And he's the same age as her son. And she got a baby by him. And that's not frowned upon in our community. Everybody's still going to put it right where on the young man. Oh, because he got the money, he's supposed to know better.
that's great.
I
That's
mean,
great.
if it was young WNBA players who were having if they had a brother that was targeting WNBA players, getting babies, getting them pregnant, then we'll be having a different tone and a different conversation. If it was the same man impregnating multiples of those, you know.
Wow. I don't, I don't think, brother Barry. Let's be real. I don't think many brothers going up in the. I don't even think they want to. I don't even think they shop in that store. You know what I'm saying? They
I don't
they
know,
doing
man.
more attachments and add-ons and accessories.
Yeah, but I don't. But here's the thing. I want to make sure I
Seriously,
make. Well, it's some beautiful sisters in the WNBA now. I would say that they are doing a better job at promoting, and they're more
it's
feminine.
beautiful.
I mean, and these sisters, like, look at the sister Wilson. She's with Bam Adebayo. These sisters actually are in heterosexual relationships now. This ain't the old WNBA full of studs. So no, these women are fighting. They're fighting back about being bullied for being pregnant. These women are really like doing a new thing, and I like it. I like watching basketball, knowing that feminine women can play basketball. And I do like the idea that they are dating the NBA players because it makes sense. Like, you're so tall, who else gonna date you but this tall brother? And I'm glad that some of these men are dating and mating with these women and marrying them too, right? Like, I love that idea of that taking place because hey, if you're a 6'4"
Yo,
wide receiver, you should marry a 6'4" small forward inside of the WNBA. It only makes sense.
you see, what was that? Jalen Williams. His mom was blocking Juju. Juju, Jalen. Well, on courtside, they were having a great old conversation. And
So
a couple
that's
minutes later, my dudes came through, moved short, yo, put itself in the middle. It's like, nope.
and that
What you
and
talking
that's
about right here?
and,
That
and
break
that's
that was
another bad situation because what'll end up happening is his mother will
yep.
interfere, and then he's going to end up with an older woman that's going to end up taking all of his money. And that's the stuff that I don't like about our community, what we do to these black young millionaires. They get targeted. Either somebody trying to stick you up with a gun or they're trying to stick you up with the system. And when we say, why don't people give back? Or why is this brother with some white woman? This is why. Your thoughts is there's more than one way to go about caring for your child. Keep in mind what is the way. Oh, I'll let y'all touch that one.
No,
I'd like to chime in. Good morning, brothers. Good morning, everyone.
Good
no,
morning,
Sister
Sister
Ross,
Rasha.
I wasn't sure if you were coming
I
in
mean, if we're
earlier.
talking about the way, let's talk about your support, Miss Brown. Let's talk about the parental support. who's there to help you raise your child?
Okay.
Yeah, it's the teacher. Yeah, they get more awake time from your child than you do. We get somewhere upwards of 9 hours. especially if you work a job that starts before 8 o'clock, and or you work at a job where you can't get there till after 5 o'clock. We get your child potentially from 7 in the morning, potentially, till 6 in the afternoon. Some call it evening. So we can have more influence on your child than you do. So what is the way? She asked, what is the way? But if you want to do it right, there's an element of home reality and state reality, and that's what I do, state reality, that comes together. But that means I'm teaching some home value, and the home is teaching some academia. Yeah, right, Brother Barry?
Yeah.
All right, so the way is when you are interfacing with the state in such a way so that they are forced to do a little bit of what you want them to do, and you have got your home life in alignment in such a way so your home life is forced, Brother Rodney, right, to do a little bit of the work of the state. Am I off course? Yes or no, brothers?
No, we're letting you arrive. We seeing where you about to land at.
So let's get some examples of that. What do I need to be teaching in the classroom to keep matters of home and overall civility alive? One of the things I do is we have communal food. Once a week, Miss Johnson Edmond swipe that debit card and we discuss science. But in that meantime, we eat Wingstop. You hear me? We have pizza. We have chips and dip in a social setting. But we discuss astronauts being stranded in space. We discuss teenagers who go into weird, in the canyons or climb mountains or get stranded in caves. Okay, I will put some death in there on some kids. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. But the point is that there's some aspect of cooking and the change of physical state of protein that I incorporate what it takes not to be burned. What happens if you in there frying French fries for your family and the grease fire go whoosh, right? That's a part of my actual classroom time when I'm discussing states of matter, when I'm discussing you get it what I'm trying to say here. But you all, the parents of America, are supposed to then incorporate intrinsic academic standard and expectation that I can lean on when it's time to go into rock hard pedagogy, right? Phonics, multisyllabic words, building a vocabulary, understanding of scientific prospects and principles, mathematic formula, right? Yes or no? Come on.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
don't ever say the words
Yes.
mathematical formula in your house, it's on you. If I don't teach your child that the stove is a heat source, it's on me. If there is no stove in your house and no way for me to teach your child, it's on the state. Anybody hear me?
I'm with you.
But I think her question was more so
Yes.
about
Yes.
she clarified her
Yeah.
question
We,
because
we
I, I,
listen.
I guess sometimes we be dribbling away from the question. Her question was, if one person decides to keep the child and the other person don't, how do you deal with that?
Okay, I'm there. I'm there.
Because
All right,
hold
I'm there.
on,
You
hold on,
got me, baby. Hold
hold
on, hold on, baby. Hold on, 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 hold on. So who do you lean on when one or more parent is not there?
I think if you're in a situation where there's a parent who
In
has
fact,
decided that they were not
most people lean
going,
on their parents first.
Well, I think that it's a difference. I think when you're in a situation where you're dealing with two people who are at a impasse, and one person is saying that they will not and cannot be there, then you have to lean on the parent who has decided to keep the child.
Yes, sir. And
That's
who do she lean on or he lean on?
well, you would hope whatever the support group that that person has already inside of their life, outside of the person that they were doing a horizontal poker with.
And who are those people?
I mean, I listen. I'm not gonna do cat in the hat because I
Okay,
think
this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is
no,
what I'm
no,
trying to
no.
tell you.
Listen, I hear you, but it's too early in the morning to be having folks playing with my intelligence.
Okay. It's
Because
us,
oh, no,
Brother
listen,
Barry.
no, but I hear you. But what I'm telling you is this: at the end of the day, these are choices that adults make, and we don't need to break it down to we're all past the age of 35. People making poor choices, and when you make poor choices, you blame other people. That's the fucking American way. And this is why we got Donald Trump as president, because all we do is place blame. It's a level of predatory behavior that we don't want to talk about because black men are too egotistical to ever be made out as a fool. So we never want to say, brother, you got gamed. Period. That's why he wrote the check because he didn't want to get gamed further. And we're not even talking about that we're allowing through this Instagram personality complex we got going on where women are trying to game younger men. These are not even equal peers. He's 25, she's 44. He's not even her peer. We're not even talking about it from that aspect. If we talked about some high school star that was getting taken advantage of by his teacher, we would say the teacher was damn wrong for sleeping with the high school star. There's no difference here. And so to me, I just
She could be
I
his son.
man, listen,
I'm sorry,
she's
he could be her
44.
son.
She's 44. And that's the part of the conversation that I'm like, it's disheartening
That's
because you
2
don't,
years older than me.
man, that's so disheartening because I would hope for this sister that her support group is saying, hey, listen, if you want children, if you want relationships, you got to value yourself a lot more. And then you got to value your kids too. You know, you got to value this kid because now this baby has to think about a father that possibly may or may not want to have a relationship with this child. And now this child is going to feel that burden. Yes, you got the money, and that money is. I mean, look, the tariffs are imposed, man. That $1 million ain't gonna spend today like it spent yesterday, and we're not
Yes.
preparing.
Yo, did you see the clip? Did you see the clip that I sent you all where the mother and the daughter share a sister because
See,
the
all
daughter's
right, see,
father slept with the mother's mother and got her pregnant? Yes, Rodney. Yes,
No, sir, I
the
didn't get
mother
that.
and
But
the
I no, sir, I
daughter,
didn't get
the
that.
mother
But I
and the
do want
daughter
to
share
finish
a
one
sister.
idea. I do want to finish the idea before we're done.
Okay, go ahead.
When you don't have, I don't care how much money you have, when you don't have
Go
human
ahead.
support within the family, meaning there's somebody there to put the kids on the bus, there's somebody there to create kids. There's somebody there to feed children. There's somebody there to put them into an educational state. Is somebody there to receive them from that state, be it the same person or not. And there's somebody to feed and bathe them before they go to bed. All right? This is the nature of children, point blank, period. And if you are a person who thinks that cash is going to do it, like literal pieces of cash don't do it. You have to use that cash to hire a person when you cannot go be there to make, because you're making more cash, be it fucking the next dude who's going to give you your payout, whatever y'all think it is, or an actual job. You then have to hire another individual to do that work, or somebody sees you're not doing it and they lean upon they put the state on you. And you know these you know better than any of us, Brother Barry, what that looks like. So what I'm trying to explain to you all is even after she gets the payout, there is this human life with her being in damn near in her 50s and him being this young thundercock because he was deep knee deep in that pussy. knowing that there was wrinkles on that pussy. You heard me, brother Rodney. He saw that was some wrinkled up pussy. He saw it.
Okay.
And he laid his seed in that field. He planted his
I
seed
remember doing that.
in
Grab
that
down, look, bring
field,
them to me.
irregardless of what the soil looked like. And now there are these sprouts, humans. And either she's going to become in her damn near 50s, the beginning all and end all of this child's life, or she's going to have to hire help, or he's going to have to come in, whether he wants to or not, later on down the line as a relief hitter for this potentially teenage child, right? Maybe even in his 20s. The child may even be in its early 30s with the absence of a father, which is underdeveloped. Would you agree, Brother Barry? A person in their 30s who had no reliable father is still underdeveloped. Yes or no?
No,
You're underselling your own reality. You're underselling your own power if you say that you could have created a child that went 30 years without knowing you, Brother Barry, and it's still whole.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is because Rodney talked about the difference between being a father and being a daddy. I think sometimes we forget that children still need daddies. And I was talking to someone else the other day about how we've disrespected stepfathers and stepmothers across the country. That child still has a chance to make it. And there's people that still could step in. But the question is, if those people got values and not dollars, do the mother still want to be associated with people who got values that can teach that child morale? Because having a daddy or having your father around, if the father is forced, he may not even be a good daddy at this point. And I just want to point out again, life is not a perfect thing. And I think sometimes we get caught up into the sciences, and the science is just a study of. It doesn't mean that it's absolute. I do know we want better practices, but I think a better practice would be two people who are married, who are committed in long-term relationships inside of one household, having a child, not a woman. Not a woman having a child by a man who's engaged to another woman who has other children. So I just look at it from this vantage point, man. We have to stop being predator towards each other, and that's the tough thing. I feel like from black folk to black folk, we got to stop preying on each other.
So the blended family, Brother Barry, you're not
Let me.
willing to buy into the blended family.
No, I'm all about blended. I'm all about willing blended families. But if they're telling you that they don't want to party with you, and that's what they're saying, I don't want to party with you so much. Here's $1 million in advance. Get the fuck on. At that point there, the blended family is dead, because if he was thinking about this child and raising this child in a blended family, that check wouldn't have came about, and he would have just said, okay, whatever comes with it, because I value this child as well as this mother. And I don't think you could really be a healthy, good father if you don't value the mother. You have to be able to have some type of value in the other person. And those are
But
the constraints of parenting that we really don't talk about.
I like her enough to fuck
All
her,
right,
but
we
not
gotta move
enough to
on
love
because
her.
sister. Yes, absolutely. That happens all the
Two,
time.
di-
One
two
has
different
absolutely nothing to
things.
do with the other. Has absolutely nothing to do with the other. Absolutely.
I mean, women tell me that.
Absolutely.
Women tell me that all the
Sister,
time. Women tell me
I'm
that all the
telling you,
time.
don't beat
I
me up.
want to fuck you, but I just don't like you. I hear that all the time.
You know,
But
but
you had to
And
fuck her
I'm
enough
okay
to make
with
her
that. You know
pregnant.
what I'm saying? There's
You had
different
to
women
have
on
sex with
me.
her. I mean, we're not talking about no one off. I mean, maybe about 0.10% is one off. I touched her and she ended up pregnant. We talking about multiple. We talking about multiple interactions with another. Never mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead, fellas. Go ahead.
well, when you say fellas, that's plural.
It's okay. No, Brian,
And
you go ahead. Say what you need to
well, I
say.
was
We
gonna
got
say
to move
when
on.
she said fellas, that's plural. When she seemed, Sister Rashi, you seem to have a disagreement with us, when in reality, I lean more to what you're saying. And just like I put in the chat, this is pretty much a discussion to nowhere. because we, in my opinion, as a society of people, and I'm talking black people, are not really ready to address this issue in its fullness, nor do I believe we're ready to fix this issue. So that's why I said that this is a discussion to
Yeah.
nowhere.
And
Sister Rashi says that, she gave her perspective of, you ready to, give her the meat stick, you but you don't want to do the rest. And Lee, I'm with you 100%. They are totally disconnected from one another from a man's perspective, right? But I don't believe they're totally disconnected from a woman's perspective. So I don't think that we can arbitrarily say, and I'm a man who believe in what you say, but the reality for both partners is one is disconnected where the other one is fully plugged in and makes decisions based
Literally.
off of being plugged
you
in.
better plug it, ladies. You better plug it
Literally.
in. Plug it
So
in.
so I do think that, it's like what the Borg says, resistance is futile. Well, this is one of those where this is a
But I
Borg
do want to say
conversation.
this, fellas. I'm a reformed hoe. I my early days were very loose. I did not have a father around to protect my
Your stuff
vagina and
started
make
out
it.
loose.
I did not have a holy vagina. I was very loose. My first sexual interaction was in my early teens. He was gorgeous. He was the most beautiful chocolate brown. In fact, I think he probably went to the NFL. I need to go find him. I wonder where he at. Anyway, what I decided later on when I finally I picked one of y'all. I picked one and I said, "Okay, fuck it. Him,
And he
right?
did.
Him. Himothy, as they say in the streets, is Himothy, right? Even after that, once you cheat on me, well, fuck it. Let's all cheat, right? Let's all cheat. Then I did that for another 5 to 10 years. And then I found another one, Himothy. He cheated. Fuck it. Let's all cheat. Then I went to the internet. Believe it or not, that's where I found y'all brother up there in the upper right hand corner. I found him on the internet while I was being fast and loose again. By the time I realized the damage I was doing in the time
Oh,
I
stop.
lost,
You got to put some
Now
context
that is
behind
a
this. Because
real original.
we would
by the
never,
time I
we
realized the
never get
time
to
I had
that.
lost, get hush up. By the time I realized the time I had lost, fellas, I was behind in my degree plan.
My
I
God.
had given birth to children that men had decided they was ready to pay 200. Okay, the Missouri welfare standard is $234. So if you put a man on child support and he's on minimum wage, you get two motherfucking $134 goddamn dollars. And I'm supposed to be what? Fucking for profit? Anyway, what I would like to tell you all is there's damage being
Okay.
done.
So, yeah, you
Having
got,
children without caring for them in a psychological, sociological, and financial way does ethnic, geographical, because of how they redline us, and genetic, because them IEP numbers is climbing, brother Barry. Those IEP numbers among the black population, they're climbing. It does psychosocial, financial, genetic damage. And no, no, she not supposed to give that cooch gap.
okay.
This called gap
Last word.
goody.
Last word,
No,
Rashi.
she not supposed to get that gap goody up like that.
Okay.
But you know how y'all are. You know how beautiful black men are.
Okay. That was it. Okay.
Until
So
until you want
I'm
to talk
trying to give
about
you space
Amiri
for your
Baraka.
segment and get. No, no. I'm trying to give you space for your segment and get to the rest of the show. We got a lot to cover, and we were supposed to be off this topic minutes ago. But anyhow, I want to get to Sister Latanya's comments because she's been in the box real good. So she said, "I'm sorry, my question was a little open. I was referring to the topic of one person keeping the child while the other doesn't want to." So yeah, I think we answered that for you, sis. But I didn't want to pass by all of your comments without including you in the show as well. Thank you for keeping the inbox active this morning. Um, so regardless of what these two people have done, the answer, the question has been answered with the writing of a check. What happens in the future, we can cover that later on, but it is what it is at this time. Today is hands off day. I wanted to transition to that while we were going into that because it kind of made sense. Hands off day is today, and there will be thousands of protests throughout the nation. People are gathering. Over 500,000 people have RSVP to be a part of the protest in various cities from literally coast to coast. These people are getting together to talk about and to come together in solidarity against the president's handling of the nation during his second term. They're going to talk about everything from Elon's slashing to the federal budget, federal employees getting cut, indiscriminatory. They're going to talk about the tariffs. We'll talk about that after Rashi has her segment. We'll talk about the tariffs on the other end of that. The Supreme Court is not bolstering well for the American people right now either. Um, we'll talk about that on the other side of this as well. Boots on the ground. Brother Barry brought that up earlier today on his show. I'm not about marching anymore. I'm done with that too, Brother Barry. I totally agree with you. But this is the time to be active in some form of fashion, to resist in some form of fashion. Normally I heard on the news the other day. Normally, your senators or your congressional people get hundreds of calls, maybe even thousands, when people are pissed. They're getting tens of thousands of calls right now. Like their phones are literally ringing off the hook because that many people are pissed. My concern. I was watching the Bill Maher show. What the hell's the name of that show?
Real Time with Bill Maher.
Oh, whatever it is.
Yeah, that show's
Huh?
called Real Time with Bill Maher.
Real time. That's it. Real time. Thank you. I knew it had something to do with the clock. And one of the things that he said in his monologue, I couldn't remember. Look, I'm getting old, right? And I don't watch it as often as I used to. But one of the things he said in his monologue was, you can't win simply by saying, I'm the other choice. You got to let people know what you are about. And the Democrats right now are doing a horrible job at letting people know what they are about. We all know that they are licking their wounds from this last election. I don't think it's a good policy to sit back and just point the fingers at the other folks and say, see, I told you so. Kamala was up a few days ago. She had a speech in which she basically said, I'm not here to tell you. But she didn't basically say. She said, she did say. She said, I didn't say it. I'm not here to tell you I told you so. But, and she left it at that. And the crowd went into an uproar, so on and so forth. I don't think that's a winning strategy. I think we all deserve something better than just, well, vote for us because we're different. When in actuality, there's not a whole lot of difference in either party. There will be, in actuality, because folks will go wherever the donors tell them to go, and their policies will follow suit and say. Now, sometimes you get lesser push for the domestic policies, a la the Democrats. Other times you get a harder push for domestic policies, a la the Republicans or the Trumplicans, as Rodney will call them. What we're seeing now are stressors on every corner, side. I don't know what you want to describe the angle of our society, but they're coming. And I have said, and I still hold this to be true, this dude is putting all these stressors out here to make the system break so that he can declare martial law.
Mm.
Do not fall for the okie doke, because I think that's the worst thing that could really happen to us, because that will give him and all of his cronies carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want to do, even greater than what they're doing right now. And that, if this is the tip of the iceberg, I would hate to get down to the root of it, the base, if you will. That
Mm.
is even more scary, in my opinion. What do you think, Rodney?
So I do think that martial law is on the table. As a matter of fact, I was just texting in the chat to give the date for martial law as April 20th is the cutoff date. So it's right around the corner. He is going to do it one way or the other because that's the playbook that all strong men use. It's about seizing power, and they do it in a fairly methodical way, just as he has done it, because we are we have been, and to a certain extent, too apathetic to do what's necessary to prevent it from happening. And unless we change our course, then the country may not change its course because he is at the helm and he is he is in control. We have people like Chuck Schumer that are appeasing him. And even though we had Brother Cory Booker give the marathon filibuster that broke that racist, white, segregationist, white supremacist, Strong Thurman's record, thank you, Cory Booker, for doing that because it needed to be done.
Yes, yes.
It's, for the people on the streets that I'm dealing with, they love the fact that he did it as I do, but they're still going with the same thing. But what's the follow up? What's the plan? I think similar to what Brother Barry was saying is, okay, we've done the talk, and he gave a great talk. There was a whole lot of goodness. We could just break down portions of his speech for our talking points because he laid out the plan for moving forward. But it's a matter of the people. What is galvanizing the people to move the people forward? And in this, I'm talking about Black people primarily, because we do see white people moving, possibly because of their own self-interest, but they are moving. And what I'm saying for Black people, I'm not saying the big marches and things like that and rallies, but I'm saying within our communities, what are we doing? Because here in Las Vegas, which is a fairly apathetic community of Black people, there doesn't seem to be much. Now, maybe it's building, but thus far, there hasn't been much of anything. So where's the action from the D's as well as the rest of us Black people to add, to put the meat on the bones that Cory Booker hung out for us?
Well, Brother
25 point,
Rodney,
25
hold on, Brother Lee, hold on. Would you agree that writing your congressman is one? Literally writing the words or typing the words into a document and putting at name at something something dot gov. I'm assuming that's what the prefix is, suffix is, right? Dot gov into a chat box and letting them know is one. Secondly, right, is showing up at these, I mean, not for us right now because Black people are on arrest. I don't know if you know that, but for them, showing up at these various protests where people are organizing, right? That's one, right? I mean, there is actual action. I mean, it's not a game. Showing up at your town hall meeting, demanding that your state representative and senator or whatever create an actual monthly or bi-monthly public space where you get to show up and say, "God damn it, I can't take it anymore," right? In case you can't write, you should be able to say such words. Yeah. And so there is a format, a state and federal format for you to call your congressman and get them to a public space in their constituents district so you can voice your concerns, right? Right. Okay. And then you can do boycott
Yes.
of businesses who are not willing to accept the practices and ideology of what you think the community is aligned with. You don't go. We had a dude who beat somebody with a bat in our community. We didn't buy no more booze from him. Period. Point blank, like that. Yeah. I mean, it's not a game.
Hmm.
So, Sister
Not at
Rasha,
all.
you asked
All right.
questions. I think it was
So I'll
rhetorical, but yes to all of that that you said. Those are all things that we can do, plus more.
Brother Barry.
Well, I would like to point out that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson made a ruling that the session will be considered one long day. And that's a very important ruling because there was a bipartisan bill that passed the Senate that took away wartime powers away from Donald Trump. It could have been done inside of the House of the Congress as well. It's very important to know that that took place because what I think the American people need to do is write down the names of the politicians who have gone along with Donald Trump, and whatever takes place, he should not only be held accountable, so should those politicians. That's what I want to say first and foremost. The second thing that I do want to point out is that we should not be tired. I don't know how we're tired when most of us all we did was show up to a ballot box. Let's not act like the streets was riddled with protests and we were doing all of these things up until the election. What are we tired from? And this slogan and this tiredness, this is what I'm talking about. This is what pisses me off about us as a people. Because if white folks are showing up protesting, they're not protesting on our behalf. They're not going to ask for the things that we need. And while we can sit out and keep our money in our pocket when it comes to Target and other things, the conversation on the back end hasn't been let's create our own. I haven't heard that dialogue. We got 40 days of protest. Well, if we got 40 days of protest, that should have been 40 days of planning along with the protest on how, if Target does not, if Amazon does not, how we can build our own network. Not 40 days where you just sit out and do nothing. And I feel like to me, this is a great time for Black folks to seize the moment. And I feel like we're not seizing the moment. This is the time that the moral compass shows up. This is the time where we point out that we too could be extradited out of this country for wearing Chicago Bulls gear, for having certain tattoos, for being affiliated with gang members who may be our family, who we may text, email, phone call, etc. Because when they start pushing us out the country, remember, we are the ones who said we were just tired. And that's the stuff that scares me in this moment. And I'm not pushing that at because Sister Rashi said it. I've seen that being said across the timeline on social media. And I'm like, what are we tired from? Like, I don't understand this idea. We're tired, but we're learning the boots on the ground dance. You don't look tired to me. You look like you just want to have a party.
So talking about being swooped up for being around family members and whatnot, the uh, the Maryland man Kilmar Garcia, who was deported to El Salvador, uh, was ruled by a federal judge, to be needing to be returned to the United States of America by 11:59 p.m. on Monday. The administration acknowledges that this man should never have been deported. He is a legal U.S. citizen, but he was deported anyhow. And they initially said they couldn't get him back. They was going to leave him. That sorry for your luck, buddy. But again, the federal judge has since ruled that he needs to be returned to the U.S. by 11:59 p.m. on Monday. Now, the way the courts are set up, I wonder if the Justice Department is going to fight it, or if they're going to actually do their due diligence to get the gentleman back to where he belongs. Hopefully, even before that day and time. But we'll see. And the way I say the way the courts are set up, let's remember that in his last administration, Moscow Mitch helped this president pass the courts with those who are sympathetic to the Trumpian way. So we don't know what's going to happen with this young man. Latanya, sister, I'm stuck on you, Tanya. She asked a question.
That's
She
what
said,
I call
question,
it.
do we or can we the people,
That's what I call it, Tanya. I
yeah,
grew up
do
with.
we or can we develop, got you, a better, let me do this. Let me put it up there because I'm trying to read it from here and read it from there. Working better with enforced laws. Have we tested past and present, causing a stronger view on how things will change? Do we or can we, the people, develop or work better with enforced laws? Have we tasted past? I think she meant tested past and present, causing a stronger view on how things will change. Well, you know, if you look at history, which you know I love some history, we are in the realm of, as Rodney has said time and again, a bloody September, a bloody summer, actually. So
Red Summer.
I don't know how much or how fast things were. Red summer, thank you. Red summer. I don't know how fast or how much things will change based off of those events, those past events. Based off of those past events, we're looking at another 30, 40 years before change actually starts to occur. Because after the red 20s, you got the 60s and the 70s. That's roughly 40 years. Um, uh, I'm not sure that I trust this system to change that much, and I dang sure don't trust it to change that fast. Sister Rashi, I'm bringing you up another 3 minutes. I know you are ready to go, but let's round it off to 12:10 and go from there. Um, oh, let me see. What did I want to hit on real fast? Real fast. I've said this for a while, and I'll continue to say it. You know, the only way we're going to get anywhere in this climate is by allowing us to start to gel with one another. And that starts with us first acknowledging one another. Secondly, acknowledging that we are not a homogeneous group of people. But that does not mean that we cannot work together, nor does that mean that we should not support one another. We have to introduce ourselves to one another so that we can build trust. We have to introduce ourselves to one another so that we can build an understanding. But through both of those things, nothing comes before our blackness. Nothing should come before our blackness. And the faster that we are to accept that, the faster we are to grapple with that, the faster we are to deal with that, the faster I believe we will have an opportunity to come out of this situation and any and every other thing that America has to offer us between now and then in a much better state. This is serious. These are serious times. These people are not here to play. They are about that business. And their business is to make sure that they stay or feel like they are in control. They are in power. That is what this is all about. Nothing more, nothing less. Sister Amira, I'm going to get to your question right after I allow Sister Rashi to come in. Well, you know what? I think I can do it. I don't understand why African Americans are supporting illegal immigration. Isn't this a nation of laws and order, and many of us entered this country through the legal means. When we have these open borders, we are only being forced to redistribute our resources to the illegal immigrants instead of the homeless or African American communities that truly deserve these resources. I'm gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna come into that because I promised Sister Rashi we will be on time, and it is now 12:10. Sister, you have the time. What do we want to call your segment? How about time with Rashi? It's yours. Rashi. You know what? I had to add her back in. I don't know why she fell off. I'm sorry, sister. You fell off. I got to put you back in. Here you go. Now it's yours. It's all you. You're on mute. You got
I just
yourself on mute, Rashi.
I want your verbiage to be understood
Rashi.
that when you say words like
Wait.
allow I just want you to. So today I'd like to talk to you all about the artist, the activist Amiri Baraka. Now, the segment for this month I want to call Poetry Moment. It's not about me. It's about you know this idea that America used to have where we big up different people for different times of the year. Last month was Women's Month. This month, fortunately, I believe, is Poets Month. And I sat here and I literally racked my brains. I mean, there's Bell, there's so many black poets. Like we have put our foot down when it comes to expressing ourselves poetically. We got a whole we got not one but three different musical, no, four if you count the blues, different musical genres that's just like poetry based. But today I want to talk to you about what it means to mix your poetry not with whimsy and romance, but with the purpose of the people. What it means when your words are in fact the purpose and the idea, like, because that's what we've been kind of talking about, right, Lee? When you are able to make your words as a person, as a constituent, they call you, or as a member of a community, when you're ready to say what should be or what at least express what is, if you're not trying to sway the public opinion, you're at least explaining what they call the zeitgeist, which is the mindset and the workings of the people of the time. So I got to give a little backstory. All right, so I'm a prodigy. No, I'm not being weird. I started college at 16, like Martin Luther King. And so one of the colleges that I went to was my local state college. They had a program for black excellence. I ain't gonna even hold you. If you were poor and you were black, but you wasn't stupid, or you hadn't failed, or you hadn't fallen to victim to the trauma being inflicted by you, on you by your community, then there was a program that they're called trio programs. And if you got a little coin in your pocket and you want to part with it, please find your local trio, TRIO program. In this trio program, we had a wrap off. And you know how I am. I'm vicious with the words. I come through with the praise. I'm down with the prose. And so, in doing so, I won a book. That book was by Amiri Baraka. And in that book, he had his poetry, but it was written as rap. I had never seen it before. I've seen poetry broken up as in stanzas, right? But I had never seen it written as lyrical rap, say as Gil Scott Heron would do, or some of the others, right? So I broke in, I delved in because I had wanted as a gift. I said, let me look at it. And it spoke to me. It spoke to me about what it meant to be urban, black, poor, striving, brilliant, creative, mad, angry, and aware of the discrepancies within our living society. And he had put it all in this book. Oh God, I think it's called Blue Music. I think it's called Blue Music. Will you do me a deep dive, Brother Rodney, and look into his book bibliography? And I know the word blue is in the title. Do me a favor, real quick. I apologize. I think it's called Blue Music. Anyway, so I said, okay, let me see who this dude is. This is at the beginning of the internet. So I could not go and queue up. This is in the 90s. The internet was just flourishing and all that data had not been put on to the interface. So I couldn't go put in Amiri Baraka. I had to go old school, fellas, and had to go into the archives of what we have. And when they sent me to that area, we were talking about 1960, 1970, 1980, like that. All right. Because his work in the 50s was so avant garde, even though he was in his 20s doing good work, it was not something that was published. So, what we're looking at is a black man. What we're talking about is a black man who was educated because his parents were educated, and we can talk about that at another date. What it means when your parents set a educational and academic foundation, whether they have achieved it or not, they still have an expectation for his parents in particular had an expectation for academic foundation. Amiri Baraka, born Leroy Jones, grew up in New Jersey. He's a part of that Newark. Uh, he's a part of the Leonard Jeffries band of understanding. But being born in the 30s, in the early 30s at that, he would have been in that crux of America where we were still reeling from the stock market crash, and we were still reeling from the boom, from the end of the robber barons and whatnot doing what they were going to do. And we were just beginning to accept Truman's New Deal, right? This is just around in the 30s, in 34, 35, 36, 32. This is when we accepted that Social Security was real, that food stamps was real, that putting money into the federal, the USDA and food FDA was real, right? So that we can give poor people their commodities and trust that it was real food, right? So he grew up in this era where we were rebuilding America, but he did it in the middle or the late phase of the Harlem Renaissance. This is your Langston Hughes. This is your Zora Neale Hurston. This is your people who are pushing ideas of African unity, Pan Africanism, Black nationalism, and all those ideas were coming out of that era. Okay. So this was a particular type of people that's created during that time, and America Baraka showed all that. Now if you're interested, because I'm always interested in gaining more information about someone, I suggest you go to YouTube. Okay, he actually has his own, he is passed, by the way. When I talk, this segment is a memoir. You asked what this segment is about, Lee. This is memoir. This is us giving people who have passed their flowers. Barbara Sizemore, as I discussed last time, has passed. Toni Morrison, which I have done in the past, has passed. And so when I discuss, unfortunately, I am a memoir segment, but memoirs are as important as any segment can be. It's a Sankofa segment, let's say that, in that we look at the work of those in the past and we do our best to mimic that behavior in the future so that we don't lose whatever momentum we gained from them. What momentum, you said, Miss Johnson? The momentum of the struggle. Amiri Baraka believed that he was a member of the struggle. And let me ask you, brothers, as I end this fairly short segment, are are you a member of the struggle? And if you have joined the struggle, in what capacity are you? Because Amiri, he was an activist. He was a ground roots activist. He paid some of the money out. He made quite a few black children. He numbered in the eights. Okay, he had 8 to 9 black children by different women. Those were the ones he categorized. We don't ever know about them secret kids y'all got, like Lee got in Korea. Never mind. Anyway, so what we do is
Why kids?
don't get to denying it. Don't get to denying it. Little Leroy is out there. Leroy Fong is looking for his daddy, and you know it. So but what Amiri decided was at some point, and all of us are making that choice, right? Family versus struggle. If you decide to join the struggle, in what industry of the struggle are you in? Because struggle got industries, right? And if you decided, has your family, because Amiri said he did. He said there were whole graduations and births he missed because he was at boycotts here and symposiums there and curriculum buildings there and poet laureate sessions here. They were part of his struggle that blues people, come on, brother, come on. I can come on, brother Rodney. I can always trust you to come through with the intel. Blues People was the name of the book. But when you decide, brothers, I am a member of the struggle, you give up on some of your family. You do. I don't care what you say. So, have you recognized that within your reality? Have you bought into your piece of the struggle? Have they mentioned to you that they missed you while you was out there doing your struggle work? And thank you so much for this segment.
Not a problem, sis. But why you always on me? I ain't got no side kids that I know of. I mean, I've been to the UK both times since I left, and I walked around in those old stomping grounds specifically. Well, I ain't been to Milton Keynes, but that's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been holding it together and keeping it tight. And I didn't ask what the segment was about. I wanted to know what you wanted to name the segment so that in the future when we announce it, we can put a name to it. So you know what I'm saying there's less confusion there. But
Is Rashi sanctioned talk time?
okay, so Brother Barry, you did hit Sister Amira to her question. So, you know, as far as the resources of our country going to immigrants versus those whom are already here, to escape their tumultuous countries and the behavior from drugs or tyrants taking over, what have you. So America has always been that beacon for foes. That light is a little dim right now because of whom we have in the White House, but we have always been that beacon. That is a position that we've accepted just as fact that America is America and this is who we are. I don't think that our resources are so strained on folks coming in that it's not able to take care of those whom are already here. Let's remember too that a number of immigrants that come to our country add a whole lot of value to our country through their labor and their efforts. Again, there are a number of jobs that are being threatened by the current administration's take on our nation's immigration policies. Ain't nobody running down to take them jobs. I don't know people that's running down to work on a farm from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. and dang near not be able to take a potty break or get all kinds of blisters on their hands and stand on their feet all damn day in the sun or whatever type of weather is going on that particular day. I don't see folk running out doing that. I, no, my parents ain't going out and doing that. So, two, these immigrants, I'm sorry, that's why I say they add value to our nation. They help keep prices down. They help keep food on your table, literally and figuratively. I think if you buy grape, I bought grapes, and there's a picture of the person who picture grapes on the daggone case of the grapes. I ain't never seen one of them people look like me, and I ain't never seen one of them people look Caucasian. They is straight Latino. I ain't going out here to pick no damn grapes. That ain't on the tops of my list. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. Now, if I have to, that's a different story. But as a profession and purposely, nah, I ain't doing that. So that's that. Thank you, Sister Rashi, for bringing your topic to light for us today.
But you're not
Without a
answering the
doubt,
question.
let's
What
continue
is
on
your
with the
role?
tariffs,
Have you?
though,
But
please.
wait. You didn't
So
answer. You didn't answer.
Wednesday at the Rose
Have
Garden.
you adopted a place in the struggle? Are you in the struggle? What industry of the struggle are you in? Meaning, are you struggling?
Communication
Are you communication?
and
Come on,
and
that's it. You,
team
Don
building
Lemon,
or
Roland
community
Martin.
building.
Come on, there you go.
Whenever I t- as soon as I touch down in Vegas, I never go to Vegas pretty because I know Rodney Smith gonna have a job for me to do. so, so at that point, I may be a grocer, I may be a distributor of food, not of anything
All right,
else.
I hear
At
that.
that point, I may have to run point on on community events or affairs. Hell, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I ain't coming to Vegas to have a good time. People ask me all the time, "You going to Vegas? You gonna have fun?" I'm going to Vegas to work. Do y'all understand what
And Rodney has made a
As
cute,
soon as I
but
get
Lee, you would agree. Rodney has made his position in the
as soon as
struggle
I get in the
clear.
car, well, bro, I need your help with.
Mr. Rodney, your position in the struggle is clear.
I don't know if it's clear because I do multiple things,
Correct,
but there was a
and
point that you
I am his number.
there was a point that you made earlier or a question, and my family just told me yesterday about what I'm missing, and I get to hear that frequently from my family on what I'm missing being a part of the struggle. And the key, and it is important, is to be in the struggle, but don't leave the family behind. And that is a real thing. There's a lot of pressure put on people who are in the struggle with a lot of expectation by a whole bunch of people that need help, but oftentimes don't do enough to help themselves, but put a high expectation on those who are willing to give. And that is something that also needs to be addressed.
Now, you wouldn't say that your struggle was militarily. You gave that up, and now you're doing grassroots. Yours is in the grassroots nature now. It's not like Lee says for communications. That's not necessarily grassroots. That's widespread. That could even be international. We are international with this show. So the communications aspect, Lee, is not necessarily you walking around passing out pamphlets to your community. You went for the world. Brother Rodney, your work is somewhat regional. And while we do this work right here for the world, some of your main energy is spent on the local aspect, which is equally, if not more important. Now, Brother Barry, let me ask you, you in the struggle?
I guess it all depends. I don't believe that to ask if I'm in the struggle. I'm a black man in America. I think that we're all in the struggle, whether you want.
No, see, that's the problem.
No, let me hold on a second. Because my great grandfather killed his plantation owner and fled my family from Louisiana to Arkansas. I can trace that and I can find that out. My family has been fighting this country since the inception. And I've been fighting since I was a teenager. But I also understand that we fall in love with the struggle. And sometimes it's all about the struggle, and we don't learn how to lean into the progress neither. When Fidel Castro was doing what he was doing to his people, he kept on pointing to the struggle. Even though he was ruling and he was in charge, he kept on talking about the struggle every time he would do them wrong. So you have to have a level of balance and understanding in the words that we say. Now, Lee just got chastised for saying the word aloud. I'm not in the struggle. I'm in the fight for progress and for liberation. And when you're liberated, it's not in the idea to celebrate struggle. It's for life and to progress. So when we ask those questions, if we're going to be defining words, I wouldn't say necessarily I'm in the struggle, but I am in the fight for the liberation of our people. And
Yes.
that's the way I look at it. So, like I said, it just depends. And I feel like everyone, even the ones that don't participate, is still a part of that. And it's hard. I agree with Rodney about what he was saying about it's hard to have an open definition because there's so many holes that you find yourself kind of, wherever the fight finds you, you have to put up your dukes and get down. So it's kind of hard to say I'm fighting for education, or I'm fighting with child protection services, or I'm fighting for police reform, or I'm fighting for economics, or I'm fighting for whatever the case may be. We got so many different things and there's so many problems. So that's my 2 cents on that. But that's a good question.
All right. I'm a weird with words. He always get me on my words, and when I hear words like permit, allow, and then we're talking about the speak, it just sounds weird. And I have to remind myself that there's public conversation, and then there's maybe something to be had in the private. And I'm working, fellas, with correcting myself when it comes to my desire to have instantaneous change. When what I'm looking for is something that might take time. And am I saying y'all against change? No. He used to call me Lee. What is that? You used to call me baby or something like that. He used to girl girl. He used to call me baby. I think it used to be baby.
Yeah, I think,
He don't call me baby no more.
but again, that wasn't. I wasn't. But again, that wasn't aimed at you because of your feminine nature. That's just a
Exactly.
term that is used in my part of the world when we address one another.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, yo,
You
baby,
don't
what's
think
up?
I'm
You
your
know what I'm saying?
baby.
What's up,
Yeah,
baby? And we
exactly.
just move on from that.
And we moved
That's
on.
something that
And
you have.
because we discussed it. Now
Correct.
now I will have to say there was a private
That's something
conversation
that
that became
you had.
public. And I love that. I love that we have private conversations that are so pertinent that they make themselves known in public. It's embarrassing. It's like you showing your skirt, right, Thomas? However, we can't be we're intelligent beings. We can't be the only ones coming up against this idea of what is the correct space to allow each other based on gender, based on seniority, based on class, based on color. Okay, so I just need you to hear that we're in flux, my beloved brothers. We are currently in a flux. Do you hear that? And whether you're feeling it, it may or may not be something that's on your psyche, but it's still a reality. And that's happening situation on your jobs. It's happening in your interpersonal relationships. It's happening, Brother Rodney, with your families, right? There's
Right.
something going on that you have not quite put your fingertip on, and that the people in your life may or may not be ready to bring that to your psyche for fear for straight up fear. I ain't trying to hold you. Fear of your reaction to being alert to their reality, their valid reality. Got it?
Well, I
Now,
would
is
say,
it right or is it wrong? That's on you.
but I would say this though: when we spend our time parsing each other's words, you don't know what's offensive to other people that you may say. And I feel like sometimes about
True.
intentionality too. I feel like if you know somebody is coming in good just, then we should put that as a part of the measuring. I feel like the way that we've been wired in this society, and I heard somebody say this the other day about the Republicans, and I'm like, well, it's not just the Republicans, it's an American thing where we look for the problem. We never look for what's right, we look for what's wrong consistently. And we have this mindset that if I'm talking to Lee, I got to find out where I disagree with Lee versus where I agree with Lee. And so the whole conversation is about our disagreements versus our agreements. Now, if we do that, we're not going to be talking to each other long. He's not going to want to call me. I'm not going to want to call him. And if we do see each other's phone numbers, we're going to find something else to do. And I feel like we've done that to ourselves in the country, and that causes more division. And then what we start doing is we start using the semantics of European words, where we're so good at parsing this language to find offense. And I want to point that out because I think that sometimes we can find ourselves easily offended. And I had to say this morning on my show. I said, "Oh man, it's our show," because normally I would say it's Lee's show, and Lee said several times, "No, it's our show," and he's been quite clean on that, right? I just think it's just all about just being able to understand that we're human beings. Nobody's perfect. I don't expect perfection in my inner dealings with anyone. And if I feel like you good people, I don't feel like anybody hops on this thing early in the morning purposely trying to slight the next person. Because if I did, I wouldn't be on, right? And I just hope that we look at things from that vantage point. And then to the point about family, it is a struggle. Malcolm and Betty had issues, y'all. Malcolm had issues with Betty. There was consultation that was taking place with the nation on them sometimes almost going to Splitsville because of the stress. Even when he was under the minister, he was stressed out. Martin and the infidelity. You don't think that has something to do with the stress? Like there is no perfect way to be in this thing we call the struggle or the fight. Look at Shirley Chisholm and the story about her. Some people they never talk publicly about how she ended up marrying her aide who was in the house at the same time with her husband that they showed right there in the movie. And nobody called that out to say, oh, they was playing in her husband's face the entire time. The supportive husband. You know, the husband that like, yo, he took a nosedive on what he was doing to make sure that she got what she was going. And she ended up still messing with the aide that she was flirting with the entire time behind the scenes inside of this man's house. That never got talked about. So when you get into these positions, there is no perfect people in leadership. And I think, we have to get out of this Messiah complex. God is the only perfect being. Human beings are going to make mistakes. They're going to say things wrong sometimes. I think the other side of it is the intentionality. Are they intending to be wrong, or is this just a mistake? And can we look past our mistakes?
We always look past our mistakes.
We got about 22 minutes left, and a couple more things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to bridge into the tariffs because that was huge this week. Then we can battle that out and close up at the end of the show, button it up at the end of the show. So again, on Wednesday, and the Rose Garden, the president announced tariffs, which were going to be 10% across the board against every nation that the U.S. was a trade partner with, starting today. The go live date is today. This effectively moved our tariff percentage rate from 2.5% to roughly 20%, if not more in some cases. That level is higher, could potentially be higher, I'm sorry, than the Smoot Hawley tariffs of 1930, which were at 18%, which many view as a contributing factor to the Great Depression. China instantly retaliated with a 34% tariff on all goods from America. The markets hit a 2-day sell-off. The NASDAQ lost 2,255.19 points on Friday. That is the fourth largest intraday point drop in its history. Fourth largest in its history. Please mark that in your minds and think about that. 9/11, Great Depression, uh, Corona. That day was the fourth largest in its history. There were no catastrophic events on that day except for the words of the President of the United States of America. Let's move on. It lost, in effect, $6 trillion in value. $6 trillion in value over 2 days. The Fed chair, Jerome Powell, said that the Fed will continue its holding pattern on rate cuts. They will wait and see. Some folks have guessed that Trump was doing what he was doing to force the Fed to cut interest rates. The Fed has said, nope, we're going to wait. We're going to wait and see. They projected that his tariffs will cause a slowdown in GDP, but not so much as what we cannot rebound from as of yet. They also thought that the Fed may swoop in and put a Fed put in place. A Fed put is when the Federal Reserve comes and says, okay, look, we've taken a beating enough. We're going to do something. We'll back up the markets. They did not do that. The biggest question I have is, what about my 401k? I'm a couple years off. I'm not there yet. But the advice that I saw, the advice that I heard, the advice that I read were twofold. Number one, if it's all in stock, move more into bonds with a greater bond stock mix. Number two, if you can, hold off from retirement. Aren't we old enough now to freaking retire? You telling me you trying to make me work till I die in order to retire? That's going to be my retirement date moving forward? I have issues with that. Yes, Rodney, for real. I have issues with that. No one should work this daggone hard in order to survive. When folks talk about how these kids don't want to work and they're not engaged, I call bull. Rodney, I'm gonna use your words. I call bovine defecation. It's not that they don't want to talk. They don't want to work. They don't want to work as hard as we work in order to just be able to live their lives. They want to be able to live their lives and still work. They don't feel like the work should be their life. To your credit, Brother Barry, to your credit, Rodney, to your credit, Sister Rashi, what we were just talking about being in the struggle. They don't think that, they don't want to forever be tied to a mechanism in which they are not getting their just deserved. Because let's be real, no matter what you do, if you work for somebody else, you're not getting your just deserves at all. They don't want to be tied to that for the rest of their daggone lives and not be able to enjoy their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to do better as a nation and as a society to put our people in place to not have to do that for the vast majority of their lives, in order for them to feel successful, be successful, and be okay when they finally decide to sit down and stop collecting a check either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however the hell you get paid. Thomas, you were high on this on your show earlier today. What do you think about the tariffs, and how far do you think this thing is going to go?
I think that the American people need to wake up. As I said on my show, wake your goat mouth ass up. We are in a position where this man is trying to kill the country. And it's clear. Everything else that we're debating, from child rearing and production to everything else means nothing if you don't have a country. It should be our focus. We should be looking at these tariffs and its impact on employment, home ownership, home rental, car purchase, car leasing. We should look at it on grocery prices, grocery stores, farms. We should be looking at it from a vantage point of what it's going to be for
Gas
clothes,
price.
gas prices, electric prices. And let's keep in mind, before he implemented this tariff thing, he also got rid of the agencies that would support those poor people that would fall between the cracks. So just like a apex predator, if you will, he's cornered everyone off, and he knows exactly what you would have needed for help. He's gotten rid of the help, and now it's to watch you shaking the corner before he comes in for the final kill. And I think that these tariffs should be the real conversation that we're having in our community. But I'll say it again, we're not. That's not the conversation. We are not talking about it. And I'm talking to Black America. We need to become serious because y'all know this impacts us more than any other group. So we have to be the ones that's more serious because we can't tie, many of us can't tie our ancestry back to a foreign country to go home to. Many of us have broken families. We don't have wealth. So it's important that we focus on these tariffs, y'all. And I think that we're going to start seeing the fallout this week.
Brother Rodney,
I mean, I'm right along with everything.
what are your thoughts on the tariffs? You think buying a new car? You still thinking about that?
So I went to buy an iPhone, and they told me that starting next week, that iPhone is going to cost me approximately $3,000 because of the tariff. So I'm gonna have to get that iPhone this weekend, so I don't have to pay those extra hundreds of dollars for it. I was thinking about getting another foreign car, but that foreign car is going to go up about, I think, $35,000 in value because the tariff supposedly is 25% on that car. So just to give people an idea of what's ahead of us, I did an article a couple of months back, and I put a picture, and on one side you saw a bright colored prosperous group of people in suits with plenty. And then on the other side of the picture was dark and grayish in color of people who were impoverished, groveling and struggling with each other for food. The crazy thing about it is there's no shortage of food in this country. But because of the tariffs, mark my words, there will be a shortage of access to food in the United States of America. Food prices that food that is available is going to be so high that people who have regular jobs still won't be able to afford the food. So when people are not able to take care of the basic needs of survival, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you watch criminal or what's called criminal activity go up. Well, when criminal activity go up, you need more law enforcement. And because it's so broad in scope, there's not enough policemen to enforce it, which, and this is just going down the plan of dictators, which means now you need to bring in the military to do law enforcement, which goes against posse comitatus, but posse comitatus does not exist when you have martial law. April 20th is the date that Cheeto Mussolini has asked his cabinet to give the report on what would happen when he declares martial law. And then to put a button in that, as you youngsters say, remember, he called for a purge. He called for a purge. He said instead of 24 hours, it'll just be an hour. Like, I only want to be a dictator for a day. Dictator in chief, DIC, the dick. That's what he said. So far, everything that he said, he has tried to bring to fruition. So, what I would like for everyone in the sound of my voice to do today is to take heed to those words, because this, and the young lady who talked about immigration and why should we be concerned about it? We should be concerned about it because it's never been about the brown person. That's just smoke and mirrors to throw us off. It's all been about black people, because I look like a brother from the Dominican Republic, Haiti, or pick a country in the continent of Africa. And just on those grounds alone, he showed us that he's willing to deport American citizens and doesn't even keep a record, supposedly, of where he sent them and cannot get them back. And you said the court ordered him to bring them back. Suppose he doesn't bring them back, then what? So we are, the target is us. We better recognize the target is us. We need to prepare quick, fast, and in a hurry for us being the target, because they are putting the scope on us now. Whether you see the red or the green dot, it has always been on us. And the problem is, when you allow a thing to happen to one, you open it up to happen to others. And that's why black people should be fully invested in attacking this so-called immigration narrative that he's using for justification for the Alien and Sedition Act of, I think, 1789. It does not exist. There is no immigration problem as far as people come into this country. There is an immigration problem on administering people coming to this country. We actually need those bodies.
Rodney, Lee, I want to point out that President Obama, who was born in this country, was used as the tester kit for Trump. He was going around saying that he was born in Kenya. That's how he got his foothold into politics. He delegitimized President Obama. What the hell would he do to the average black person in America who's wearing Chicago Bulls jerseys, a pair of Jordans, some Nike sweats? You got a sun tattoo? How about a moon tattoo? You know some gang members? I mean, this is what they're using. And so to me, and I'll say it again, I don't know what we're focusing on, because this is the ugly truth. You can't fight for rights if the country no longer exists. We're talking about possibly the ending of the country. And we're still doing these inter squabbles. That's why I don't care about the situation with Edwards. It's bigger fish to fry. It's bigger fish to fry. It won't be no state being the parent of this child. It won't be a state. This man he's going off of Hitler's playbook so tough. I mean, to a T. And when people try to explain this to the average American, folks don't understand. Now I'm starting to think the whole Kanye conversation about Jews, all of this stuff, y'all, this is man, it's scary. It's scary for all the wrong reasons. Scary. And Lee, if you got some kids over in the Philippines, man, call them up, man. We need to, probably need to go and stay over there.
They in South Korea, Barry. They in South Korea. He got two in South Korea, and he got one he done left in the South somewhere.
Crazy.
I still got one in the South. He's still down here. I was supposed to go see him this weekend, but I changed my mind.
You know, one
So
of
we
the
got
things we
5
haven't
minutes
talked
left in the
about,
show. Let's wrap.
one of the things we haven't
Go ahead,
talked
Rashi. What you
about
got?
when we talk about a Cory Booker standing up, and one of the things we have been discussing is how sad Democrats look so right now, how sad opposition to Donald Trump looks right now, right? Why y'all won't do nothing? Why y'all won't? We literally got the dude at the top of the Democrats saying, uh, we they well, we discussed it about a month or so back. They have the Supreme Court between Scalia and Thomas Clarence and that one hag face ass white lady they hired, Sasha Baron Cohen, whatever her name is. They got the Supreme Court. They have legitimately the Senate. And for now, because we've got some leeway as far as Democrats are concerned in the Republican House, in the House of Representatives, okay? For now, though, they still, until primaries, they still have the House. That's the trifecta. In fact, it's the quadrifecta because they have the presidency, right? And so now we're all waiting. Now what? Now what? Now what? Well, now what is them feasting on each other. Literally, us sitting there watching them eat each other's face. And so while and you know what I'm talking about, right, B? Opposition within the Republican Party. You've seen it, right, Brother Barry? One Republican eating the throat of another Republican. Have y'all seen it?
Um, I, to a small degree,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay, that's all. It's always,
No,
Brother Barry.
they
It always
they
starts
usually
off
move
to
in
a
lockstep.
small degree. You don't never start off real large. Ain't nobody coming from the for the head honcho except for these small courts saying that he can't do this and he can't stop funding of this, right? He can't do the transgendered ban of that. It's not getting publicized. So again, what we do as American citizens, Lee, like you told me to do 10 years ago, vet the source. If Go to alternative sources other than the Associated Press. If it got AP, as much as we respect the press, right, Thomas? We respect them, but if it's got AP next to the
We got two
article,
minutes.
I'm almost. If it has AP next to the article, it's a good chance it's been run through a political machine. So you have to start looking for your news on a local level. Once you get local news, please chase it through and give it at least 2 weeks so you know if it's sensationalism. Right, Brother Barry? Because sensationalism can't last long term. It gets contradictory information. And once you do that, you can enact change by adopting your affiliation to the people who are trying to make it right. That's the actionable behavior to the news we are receiving. And on your end, Brother Lee, please refer to the next panelist.
Brother Barry, what you got?
There is no
We
business
got a
as
minute and a
usual.
half.
No business as usual. We have to step it up, and we must be vigilant, and we must protect our liberties.
Ronnie, what you got? We got 45 seconds. What you got? You're on mute.
Yesterday was
You're on
April.
mute. You're on mute, Rodney.
No, he off.
Yesterday was April 4th, which is the 57th year anniversary of the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I didn't know if we mentioned on the show earlier, but I definitely want to make sure that we take time to reflect on that because it is pertinent to where we are today.
Dang, I forgot. Good looking out, brother.
That's what's up. Speak, Speaking of, I was going to cover that, but speaking of, also, we lost Powwow yesterday, brother from Soul Sonic Force, hip hop pioneer. He was with African Bambaataa. I wanted to shout that out. You know, that is definitely in my age range, so I always want to keep hip hop in the forefront. Hey, y'all. Thank you all for coming in. We are all reunited like Voltron. Thank you all for those that listen live, those who watch. Well, actually, not listen anymore, right? They can see us now. Those who watch us now and those who watch us later, we appreciate the support. If no one has told you at all this week, we love you and the damn thing you do about it. Until next week, family. Peace.